Hello friends, family and card fighters from around the world. Welcome back to my channel, and this video is the extended deck profile for my new premium Kagero. If you're looking for a shorter list where I just run through the deck list, I'll put that in the description below for anyone who's interested. Otherwise, stay tuned and I'll go through the list a bit slower, where I talk about the choices I made, why I like the deck, how it is, etc. So yeah, we'll get straight into that and let's have fun. So, not really needing explanation. Wyvern Kid, Raglar. Apparently this is a misprint, as you see. Mine says Lagra, but it's actually Raglar apparently, which is funny. I can understand Conroe's use in premium, and 95% of the time I would, but for this particular build I decided against it because you don't need combo pieces the way you do in other decks. This deck isn't about that, it's purely stupid. So, you know. Then we have the waterfalls. So everyone knows what he does, you know. Retires a thing on plays, gets 10k crit, no sentinels, etc. The reason I play 3 of him is because he's sort of... the other grade 3s in this deck are all designed to be able to be used on the rear guard. That's why I chose them. Whereas, so you know, we've got like Overlords. The original Overlords are really good for being on the rear guard. Same with Fire Rage Dragon. So we'll get to why these are important shortly, but that's, you know. So Waterfall is basically there as a finishing option later in the game, if that's what you want to do, and also as a grade 3 to ride to still give you more utility out of the other grade 3s which you'd put on the rear guard, which is why, also the fact that I personally just really like Waterfall. I think he's good. So then again, you know, we have the 4 Overlords and the 2 Fire Rages. That gives you 6 grade 3s which are designed to work on the rear guard. They both have rear guard skills. Overlord can give himself 10k while on the rear guard, and Fire Rage can, with his skill, retire up to 3 units or go critical, depending on the card that you get with it. Just a quick recap, Overlord is a Soul Blast 1, Vanguard or rear guard, get 10k, and if he's on Vanguard, which you basically never use this secondary skill, you can restand him as Overlords do. And Fire Rage is a Vanguard rear guard on place. You counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, and retire your opponent's rear guards as to what that card's grade is. And if it's a 0, he goes critical. So, yeah. It's good because you can have useful grade 3s on the rear guard, which we'll get into a bit later. So then I run Doha, the 3 copies, and you might be thinking, wait, why are you running Doha if you're not running Blade Master and stuff? Well, I was initially going to take him out, but then I realized having that second skill where if your opponent has no rear guards during his battle, they can't call normal units from hand to guard circle is actually pretty good for what this deck is trying to do, and very easy to do with how the deck runs. And, you know, so I don't bother playing it for the first skill because there is no Garen in the deck, therefore the first skill is useless. But having that second skill where you can sort of impose a bit of a guard restriction on your turn for free, simply by doing what the deck is designed to do, you know, I'm not going to say no to that. I don't really know many people that would. So that's why I run the 3 Doha, because he's very useful in what the deck is designed to do. Then I run 4 copies of Bellicosity Dragon and 3 copies of his G counterpart with the same skill, Dragon Knight Tanaz. So they all have the ability that they get plus 5k when an opponent's rear guard is retired during your turn. More specifically with Tanaz, it has to be one of your units, so, you know. But still, so at this point, some of you might be understanding where I'm getting, what I'm thinking, you know. But, you know, for those of you who haven't, you'll figure it out shortly. But yeah, so this deck is very easy, you know, you can board wipe in this deck very easily. So, you know, imagine you have, you know, one of these in each of the front rows. You wipe out 5 units, you got 2 25k additions to your base power. Awesome. It's hilarious. That's why I love it. Then, of course, you know, we play this guy. I play this guy because the deck isn't as... So, unlike my Blade Master build, we don't run Blade Master, so running... Nadal? Can never say how it's... He's not useful. He's basically one of the best ones because you can draw, countercharge, and he gets power when he boosts, so he's an 11k booster without any benefits. Which is nice. So he's the resource in the deck, but you don't need a lot of resource. This deck is very, very resource friendly, which is part of the reason I like it so much. Which is why I built it. And then, continuing the trend of the grade 2s, 4 Lizard Soldier Railpiers and 3 Dragon Monk Yokurus. Which I still don't know if I'm saying that right. So if you see what I'm going for, you know, that's 14 units in the deck with basically the same skill. Whenever you is retired, get 5k. So you got 7 grade 2s and 7 grade 1s, all with that same skill. So you really should be getting where I'm getting to at this point because, it's funny. So yeah, you know, and it's a really good mix, you know, combining the old and the new to achieve the same goal, essentially. I thought that was fun. Then, 2 Lava Flows because I like to stride. And you don't need to grade 3 correct, but striding is still fun. And then, speaking of striding, I run 4 copies of the Stride Crit. The reason I run the Lava Flow and the Stride Crit is the fact that I still want to be able to use my grade 3s on the rear guard circle. So this just gives me a slightly higher chance to be able to stride without throwing my grade 3s away if I can afford to. Because, as I said, you know, with the exception of Waterfall, the other grade 3s are primarily there to be used on the rear guard circle. If I can get them there. So, you know, fun times. Striding is good. I like to stride. I don't know anyone who doesn't. And then, you know, a couple of rock sashes. Sars. I don't have the Indisol 10k for Kagero, which is very sad. Then, of course, we play Bari because draw PG. Everyone who plays Premium pretty much plays those. Unless the Perfect Guard skill for the grade 1 is really good. Like in my Gurg at least, they have really nice skills, so I prefer running the grade 1 Perfect Guards rather than the draw PGs. So, you know, everyone knows. 6 draws, because having cards in hand is a good thing. And it helps you, you know, build the board and stuff in a deck that doesn't call units. And then 4 heals, all 20k shields. You don't need the Tara clones because, like I said, this deck uses very little resource. Like, it is extraordinarily resource friendly. And then onto the G-Zone, you've got 4 of these guys. Anyone who's seen my previous deck lists involving Blade Master and stuff know that I love this guy. Titan is fantastic. And, but if you're not aware, he's a GB2 skill. You counter +1, flip himself face up, and retire your opponent's rear guards as to the amount of face up him in the G-Zone, so at max 3. And then his blaze skill makes him critical when he attacks. So, you know, you retire a few units, go critical at the end, and have a fun time. Which is the whole point of the game. You're meant to have fun. So, yeah. But why I play 4 of him, and why this deck is the way it is because of this beautiful man. This beautiful dragon. Supreme Heavenly Emperor Zambas Dragon. Look at that skill. For free. All you have to do is turn a face-up card, i.e. one of these, turn one of them up, retire your opponent's board, and all your grade 3 grades get 10k. That 10k isn't as important to me, but it is why I run the grade 3 rearguards. Why I built this deck was because Zanbust, with a field of units with this skill, is hilarious. It is the greatest thing. It is so good that I couldn't not build it. And so what you get here is you get 3 turns of Zambust wiping the board for free and giving himself 10k, and then on the 4th turn you hit Titan, lols. You hit Titan for a counterblast. It's the first counterblast you've had to use essentially for the whole game. You wipe another few units, you go critical, you give units power, and it's just really funny. And by the time you hit Titan, you've board wiped them 3 times, and the likelihood that they can recover enough to build a full board at that point is very unlikely. I can't honestly think of any deck that is so proficient on calling boards that you can wipe their board 3 times and they still build a new one. That, that alone, that sole reason, and the fact that this guy's he's so handsome, is why I built it. He's just too good. He's so good. Also, have you noticed that Kagero has a lot of emperors? Are all these different... Is this like the line of emperors that have ruled over the centuries, or are they all emperors at the same time? Because I imagine that would cause a lot of political problems. But, And then, of course, you have the 3 Ziegs, because, again, you board wipe so much in this turn, by the time you throw him down, he's probably going to be, more or less free anyway. And if they have that one annoying, pesky mofo on the board, you wipe him out with the skill and restand for free. Ha ha, ha 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 ha. Because, Ziegenberg. Then, to top it off, we have the G8. The G8, who, might I add, is also an Emperor, and also a board wiping for free. The G8 skill being, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, retire all of your opponent's rearguards, and all of your rearguards get 10,000 power until the end of turn. That's just straight up. There's no caveats on that. And then, if 3 or more units are retired, he gets 10,000 power and a critical. Now, keeping in mind, the units that you'd have on the board are already going to get, minimum 5, maximum 25, or more if you're playing an Excel clan that happens to have a full board. The potential is enormous. So if you hit G8 and they're still in the game, you're just hitting a massive number for your board. Your board's going to be huge. So, yeah. It's board wiping for free is the dumbest thing. And I love the fact that Zambust became a thing. So then for G Guardians, we have Absalam, which is very good in this deck because board wiping everything again. He's going to get massive amounts of shield. See? 10k for each of your opponent's open rearguard when you use him. Haha. So good. And then we have one Asil Orb. He's a generic 20k, He's, yeah. That's all I can say about him. Yeah. Then we have Dinar Griffin. Kagero's favorite card. Everyone else hates it. Simple skill. When he's placed on guard circle, counterblast 1, retire the opponent's attacking rearguard. And the reason he's so hated and loved and hated by everyone is the fact that when he retires the attacking rearguard, he also nullifies their attack. So the attack is cancelled, which is so good and caused so much salt back in the day for, when you stumble across that ruling in a match. Oh, it's the greatest thing, seriously. I said it in the shorter list, never build a Kagero deck with a G-Zone without 2 of these. Always play 2 of these. Always. And then finally, just because I like the artwork more than anything, Mixed Element Colburn. If your opponent has a big hand, he's pretty good. You discard one of your cards and he gets 5k shield for every 2 cards in their hand. So, if you're playing... I'm not even sure what deck draws a lot in Standard these days. But, like back in the day, if you were playing OTT, they could draw a lot of hands and stuff. You could get some really big shield with this guy. But look at that art. Look at it. Look. Okay. So that's like the profile, right? You might be... my preference for this deck is actually Force 2 because of the fact that you're hitting massively high numbers on all columns if you get everything right. So, having columns that... So... Where is he? If you have like a Bellicosity and a Ralpia and you manage to take out, say, 3 units, for example, both of them get 15k. So this column at 18 is now 48k. It's like you can give it Force 1 and make it a 58k, or give it Force 2 and make it a 48k with 2 crits. It just punishes your opponent so much more having Force 2 in this deck. Because, if you're burning everything anyway and getting a boatload of power because of it, why not? Why not just rub salt in the wound? Yeah, I thought of this deck because I have recently sort of fallen away with Vanguard and Standard and Premium just because it's just not what the game used to be and it's not as fun for me anymore. But, with the advent of Zanbust being awesome and amazing and like the greatest release in Kagero since the end of G, I had to build a deck where I could use him like a stupid idiot. This deck, I wouldn't say this deck is competitive. Any deck that's legitimately competitive would be able to outpower this deck or make use of some other things that can restrict this deck down. But, it's just dumb fun, Like, you do 3 of these, you rewrite a couple times, and you think, well, instead of board wiping, I'm just going to hit them with a massive guard restrict. And because you're using Force 2, granted it's a small bit, but, why not? You can use Force 1 if you want, which is hysterical, but, Force 2. Force 2 is fair enough. Yeah, so I will say I don't know when I'm going to upload another deck profile. As I said, I've sort of fallen out of being into Vanguard the way I used to be. I will upload from time to time. If something comes along that really interests me, or a nice variation of a deck I've already got comes up, I might, I'll throw that up for sure. But for the most part, I think my uploads are going to be fairly, I think intermittent's a good word for it, not very often. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed me just being a bit silly with, how I talk about this deck. It really is just stupid fun. And that's the best way to play this game. All this stuff about my deck has to be the single greatest deck and, I'm going to spend, $800, making sure everyone knows that I'm the most powerful guy. It does not compare to spending like $50 on a deck that's so dumb, that's so bad, but so fun. So, yeah. That was a extended, if not ranty, profile where I just talked about, why I chose the cards and how it's fun. So I hope you enjoyed that. I really do. Thank you so much if you're still watching at this point. You have a lot of patience, and I commend you for it. Again, if you're wanting the shorter, just straight up deck list, it's in the description below. Otherwise, I will see you when I see you, which will be on the next video.